Hello there. Yes, it's the return of the Omega Level Nerds podcast, of course, on YouTube and Podbean. Happy holidays, everyone. Of course, it is Christmas Eve as I record this, so this will be out as a special Christmas present for all 5 of you that care. But hey, let's not worry about that. Let's just celebrate the fact that we have a lot of great content that we still get to consume. Now, yes, superheroes and Marvel with Phase 4, I almost said 4, but it's really Phase 4. It's a little, maybe we're experiencing some of that superhero fatigue. Of course, DC is a shit show, even after looking like DC's going to get its own Kevin Feige in the form of James Gunn and some other guy. Let me know in the comments what that guy's name is if you know it. But then we see that, Black Adam was kind of a shit show. You got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, fudging some numbers. Can you smell what The Rock is cooking? Oh, it looks like the books for this movie, And then Henry Cavill, who returned, as Superman in that movie, and went full-fledged. Hey, I'm going to play a more positive and bright Superman, and now he's not going to play him at all. A lot of people not taking kindly to that. Of course, Henry Cavill also exiting the Geralt Riviera role for The Witcher. Rumors have it he's signed on to do Warhammer 40K. That's super obscure, and I don't really see being anything exciting. So, superheroes in general right now are kind of on the downswing. Now, perhaps the MCU can kind of regain its footing as it works toward another storyline. And I think that's really the biggest problem with Phase 4 is that it didn't have this overarching direction that the other phases had. Culminating into this huge, end of saga movie, Endgame, which was spectacular, still the greatest superhero moment on the silver screen as far as I'm concerned. Do they call it the silver screen? They call it the big screen now. But nonetheless, Captain America calling Mjolnir, saying Avengers Assemble. I mean, just iconic moment. Chef's kiss short of shit. But Phase 4, not so much. And we had a couple good TV shows, WandaVision, Loki, but, it's really all just been lackluster. But while we've been seeing that lull in our superhero movies, we're seeing a resurgence of the fantasy genre with Rings of Power being good, despite what 8-Bit Ray from the Gorilla Brain podcast says. House of Dragon, or the House of Dragon, whatever, prequel Game of Thrones, awesome, good stuff. We'll see how this D&D movie plays out. I think that in the power struggle between superheroes and fantasy, that a good Dungeons & Dragons movie can go a long way for us really reestablishing the fantasy genre and being in a new age of fantasy content. Now, my problem so far with the Dungeons & Dragons movie is it looks like just another generic Dungeons & Dragons story. They're not taking anything from R.A. Salvatore, no Baldur's Gate, no Drizzt, no Artemis Entreri, no Catterley the Cleric. I don't know, things like that. Things that speak to me as far as great stories. I really think that in this day and age, an awesome Drizzt story, dark elf in a light elf world sort of thing could really, really work out well. But that does not look like the direction that is being taken here. But nonetheless, we got the House of the Dragon. We got the Lord of the Rings of Power. So we definitely have some things to whet our palate when it comes to the fantasy genre. But again, no big blockbuster as of yet. again, not Doomsday, but the Dungeons and Dragons movie coming out. We'll see how that goes. And Todd Matthew, who was on the show before, comic book writer, I know I was talking a little bit with him on Twitter about this age of the superheroes is passing and the age of the fantasy is here. But he had a great point, so shout out to you, Todd, sir, where he's saying, well, we really need some sort of Legend of Zelda movie if we really want to solidify the fact that, the age of fantasy is here. And I agree. It really is a mystery as to why we don't have a Legend of Zelda movie. So, one thing that I always found to be, wonderful is the Star Wars universe. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I am one of those Star Wars fans that not only have I seen the original trilogy, seen that Han Solo shot first, but I was actually in the theater for an original Star Wars trilogy movie, and that's before the re-release in the 90s. I was 2 years old and was promptly kicked out for crying, but nonetheless, I was there. I was in the theaters to see an original Star Wars original trilogy movie. So, I can make that claim. My grandmother rented all the Star Wars from an old... it wasn't Blockbuster at the time. It was called something like Bookseller or something like that. But they had a recorder, and so she recorded all the Star Wars, the original trilogy on VHS. And I got to say, I watched those movies over and over and over again. And I say that to say this, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So that's why I love the fact that Star Wars really is the best universe, the best, content world, although it involves a lot of worlds. And here's why. Here's why Star Wars is the best universe, okay? So number one is the fact that Star Wars has, yes, it is essentially a sci-fi story, but it has a lot of fantasy elements to it. And there's so many planets, right? So here's number two. There's so many planets, so many systems. There's even the unknown regions. So why does that make it the best universe, you may ask? Well, that's because they can do anything. Like I said, it has fantasy elements. It, of course, has the sci-fi elements. And if they want to do some sort of genre, if they want to do something, they merely have to... okay, we're in this planet, and this is how it goes, and this is the society, and boom, it's there. You can do anything you want in the Star Wars universe. So that's why, to me, I declare that Star Wars is the ultimate content universe, by far. Speaking of which, as far as Star Wars being the best, I think that's really evident as far as the content that we have gotten this year. Now, we haven't gotten any Star Wars movies, but we've gotten, at least this year alone, most of the Book of Boba Fett. I know I did start late last year, but we got Book of Boba Fett. We had the Obi-Wan series, which was spec-fucking-tacular, okay? But then we also got the Andor series, which I will say I was not initially interested in. It's okay, we already know the exact fate of this character, so I really didn't see a whole lot of value coming out of that series. But nonetheless, I pay for Disney Plus. There it is. Why not kill some time? And I will say that show, it is like the least Star Wars-y thing, but it still works. I mean, it's great. The acting is great. The writing is great. I mean, very, very powerful and emotional as far as the struggle between the fledgling, not even formed yet, rebels versus the now galactic empire that is establishing itself. Just awesome. Just awesome. So if you find yourself to be one of those people that haven't quite given it a chance because, well, we're watching a show about a dead guy, ignore that. Ignore that. Don't go in it with any expectations, and you will absolutely love it. It is very, very well done. Again, the writing, the acting, it's just magnifique, right? This show, Andor, it should win an Emmy, if not multiple, okay? Now, lots of great shows out there, Rings of Power, House of Dragon, Yellowstone, I mean, all sorts of stuff out there. But Star Wars, by far, that universe has birthed the best TV shows that I've seen in the year 2022. And again, I think Andor should definitely be winning an Emmy, if not multiple. Not enough love for that show. I mean, people that have watched it love it. That's not to say that it is getting bad reviews. It's just silently killing the game, and we need to make that a little bit more louder. So if you're listening to the sound of my voice right now, watching the video, listening to the podcast on Podbean, give that show a serious chance. You got to. Absolutely. Another show that came out this year that there were a lot of complaints about, but I sat down and watched it because, again, I paid for the streaming service so that I can watch my Browns lose. But Halo, the Halo series, is something that I sat down and watched, and it is absolutely true that the story that we see in this show is a inaccurate depiction of kind of the Halo story. Not fully inaccurate, but definitely not the story that we get in the games and the books and the various other pieces of content that have been done in that universe. But I still thought it was a very good show. I thought the special effects were awesome. The way the Covenant aliens looked, the warthogs, the Spartans themselves looked awesome. So I would also suggest that, you give the Halo series a try. Again, don't go in there expecting the exact same story that you might already know. It is different. Tends to be the way things go when it comes to shows or movies borrowing from a source material. We never get the exact same thing. Although, according to Random Randy Savage, who's someone I podcasted with on Superhero Speak recently, he says the Sandman series follows the book directly, hence why he didn't watch it. But outside of that, again, these adaptations, when they take from source material, whether it be comics, books, what have you, it's always going to be different. And so the Halo show does follow suit. But was it entertaining? I believe it absolutely was entertaining. I did enjoy it. I thought, again, the special effects were great, and I thought everything was very well done. There were some mistakes. The first one to me is the fact that Master Chief takes off his helmet and suit a lot. And if you played through the Halo games and read the books, you know that the Spartans really don't take their shit off a lot. But particularly when it comes to John 117, he's really supposed to kind of be the everyman. Everyone's supposed to be able to imagine themselves as that character, and that's why they never really took the helmet off in the games. I understand that this is a TV show that has actors. And so for a lot of those actors to be effective, they do have to show their face. There does have to be a bit of humanization there. I totally, utterly understand that. But I just think this is less is more in this situation for me. Just for me. Maybe not for you. And again, I still enjoyed the show. So I'm not trying to give it a bad mark for that. I'm just saying there are some miscues on that show, but very, very good. Now, you may have noticed that I'm talking about these shows. We've touched upon Rings of Power and House of Dragon, and I haven't delved into them much. And that's because I'm actually hoping to speak about those a little bit more in depth with some other people. So just so you know, I'm not like, brushing it off just to brush it off. I hope to be able to do some future content around those shows with other people, and so I want to, I don't want to overkill it. You know what I'm saying? I want to overkill it. I just want to say, go watch Andor, give it a chance, give Halo a chance as well. And I just don't think you will be disappointed. Now, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to go today. It's just myself, so I highly doubt we're going to be able to get a full hour without anyone else contributing to the conversation. Although you can feel free to contribute to the conversation or perhaps suggest a conversation. So just go to Twitter and you can tweet at the show at Omega Level Nerds, and you can contribute there. Of course, you can always tweet at me at my personal Twitter, which is right up there at the top of the screen. For those listening on Podbean, that is at D-Square72, at D-Square72. But like I said, might be a shorter podcast because no one else is contributing conversation. But I do also want to take this time to let you know where you can contribute to conversation. If you're not a Twitter guy, if the fact that Elon Musk now owns Twitter and is doing all sorts of crazy stuff, then go ahead and just email omegalevelnerds@gmail.com. Right? I mean, you can still use emails these days. It still works. Not that I check it a lot. All right. Well, I know that when I first got into YouTube, it was really all about comics for me. X-Men comics. Heck, I used to basically do a read-through or whatever, a review of full, X-Men comic issues. The whole reason I started the channel actually was due to Stan Lee's death. My first video on my personal YouTube is about Stan Lee. But the Omega Level Nerds, it started me, John, and Alan, and then, warped into me, John, Alan, and Jelly, and warped from there, and warped from there. And so we've always been geek-centric, which I'm sure, we will remain, because we're the Omega Level Nerds. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that I'm an Omega Level Nerd. I mean, because I am. But that you are Omega Level Nerds, A lot of us are Omega Level Nerds. And the reason why I did this started this whole thing, was my dream one day was to be able to provide content for guys like me who sit at a desk all day, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're working, doing some manual labor, but everybody's got our phones, everyone's got our earbuds. And so, my whole purpose for doing this, my hope for doing this is to provide you with content that hopefully gets you through a day, can help get you through a day, at least get you through an hour of your work. I know that helps me a lot. But I hope I can help you too. But like I said, I really started this thing to be very comic-centric. But I will say that as far as, actually collecting comics, physical copies of comics, that is something that I don't want to say I'm no longer doing, but a very sad thing, to me at least, has happened. And that is I have ended my pull list at my local comic shop. I'm no longer getting X-Men titles pulled and put in my file for me to buy later at the comic shop. So I'm not collecting anymore. And the reason why I say that's sad is because I've been collecting for a while. Again, particularly X-Men. And what really was exciting was a couple of years ago when Jonathan Hickman was to take over the X-Men line, and they came out with the House of X and the Powers of 10 series that kind of reintroduced the X-Men, the mutants, in their new situation. And that really was an exciting time. And my brother Volsker, he got into collecting comics at that time too, because he wanted to know, hey, where should I start collecting? How can I kind of get in on the ground floor? What can I do? And I told him, this House of X, this Powers of 10, this is kind of rebooting the whole X-Men thing. So, if you want to get on the ground floor, now's the time to do it. And he did so, and he enjoyed it. But the problem that happened after House of X, Powers of 10, is that Jonathan Hickman pretty much abandoned the world. Now, there were reasons behind this. I know he didn't just decide that, I no longer want to write X-Men anymore, so fuck it. No, that's not what he did. What had happened was the other X writers and the editor, Jordan White, decided that they really, really liked the setup that Jonathan Hickman did with his new revelations and whatnot in House of X Powers of 10, Hoxpox. They liked it so much that they didn't want to proceed the story. Okay, they wanted to continue to play in this Jonathan Hickman sandbox, and so he wanted to progress his story. And so that's pretty much what happened. Is they said, well, I'm paraphrasing here. I don't have direct quotes, but basically, Jonathan Hickman wrapped up what he wanted to do in Inferno, and then boom, let the other X-writers and Jordan White, do what they may in the new sandbox he created. And the problem is they're not creating good stories. I will repeat that again. The current X-writers, or at least when last I was reading them, because I have ended my pool, are not creating good stories. In fact, what made me really decide that, okay, we're done, stop pooling, is I had kind of factored in, like, what did I spend in the past, year? And it was like between $300 and $500 on X-Men comics. For no story, like maybe 2.5 stories, right? Because we had the Hoxpox, okay, that's good. But the individual books, like, they kept introducing things, introducing plots, but then never coming back to satisfy them. I mean, I, of course, am a Colossus fan, and they had this story going where he was actually under some sort of mind control by his big brother, Mikhail Rasputin, who's evil and working for Russia. And he made Colossus kill his girlfriend, that he was working on a farm with. And Colossus was even elected to the Krakoan Council. So, he had gotten this power, but nothing. Then they did nothing. That's what they keep doing, is they keep introducing these situations and just not resolving them whatsoever. So we're not actually getting full stories. And of course, the individual books are being interrupted by these big events. X of Swords was dumb. Leah Williams did do a great job on Trial of Magneto. I will say that was a storyline that was full, complete, and interesting. But yeah, outside of Hoxpox and Trial of Magneto, again, there was just nothing, no interesting stories. And the little interesting tidbits that they did have in there, they never came back. I can't wait 4 years for you to go back and resolve some shit. That's just, I can't do it. I can't spend hundreds of dollars in comics. $3-4 a comic for just little itty bitty snippets of storyline that aren't even resolving other plot threads that are out there. I can't do it. So yeah, I mean, as big as an X-Men fan as I am, I can't dump money into a franchise that isn't delivering, it's not even they're delivering stories. There's not complete stories that they're delivering, but I need good complete stories. I need to enjoy what I'm reading. I need to be able to, buy 4 months worth of comics and have some sort of cohesive storyline there, and not, read a comic and think, oh, 2 years ago I remember when the Children of the Vault did blah, 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 blah. That's not why people get into comics, because we want to read stories with awesome artwork, not just because we want to buy the shit to support you. We need something from it, and that's good stories. So, yeah, that's pretty sad for me to not really, be collecting X-Men comics anymore. You can always go back and read old stuff, that is, you can do that. And that's why I don't get on my Twitter and really hate too much on the current X-writers and all that. I know there's other content creators on YouTube and whatnot that basically make a living on shitting on, oh, they're woke, woke alert. I'm not about that. I don't particularly have a problem with being woke. I mean, we talk about being woke. Okay, you're awake to other people's feelings and how life affects them and blah blah blah. Like that's cool. That's cool with me. But yeah, don't trash a good story just to make that happen. That's basically the lesson you need to learn there. But yeah, I mean, as far as just superhero content, it's like you would figure that with the success of the MCU, I mean, there would just be these surge of comic sales, but they're not. It's still the same old people buying them. So why? What's going on? And when I look at the way comics evolve, I basically see they try to bring in new characters. They try to feature lesser known characters, and you got to focus on your A-listers, and it's happening, and that's why we're talking about, right, with the MCU with Phase 4s, because when you think of outside of WandaVision, outside of Loki, they're focusing on characters, C and B level characters. Now I understand the MCU made Iron Man from a C B character to AS, like I get it, but that's not going to happen. For everyone excited about the Young Avengers, that's great, but I like the Avengers, we don't need. So, again, you could try new things, but the same thing happens in the comics where they try to go into the legacy characters, they try to introduce new characters, which you can do. I'm not saying you can never introduce a new character into comics, but make sure you're focusing on your bread and butter. Make sure we've got good Avengers, good X-Men stories, all the staples. Make sure that shit is airtight, and then go here and there and do a book of an offshoot or a book of a new legacy character or a new character. Make sure it's written well, not just, we're going to try and hit a certain demographic. You always have to make sure the story is good. And we will come. But again, you got to give us what we are looking for, though, and that is that A-listers, that A-list Avengers team, that A-list X-Men team, and then you can offshoot from there, as long as you don't go crazy with it. So that's one thing that I think that the MCU is going to have to really focus on is, okay, who are the characters that people are actually going to go to the theaters and see? And then let's focus on them. We have Disney Plus. So if we want to do some obscure characters, some legacy characters, little risk, little reward, just introducing something, you already have the perfect vehicle to do that. But you do need to make sure that you are concentrating on the right Avengers characters. Now, my beef right now with that whole thing is how long has the X-Men been available for the MCU, and we still don't have any sort of X-Men movie or X-Men show announced. When we get sprinkles here or there, they made Miss Marvel and Inhuman. We saw Professor X and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But as far as like a mutant-centric X-Men show or movie, we still don't fucking have it yet, I'm a middle-aged gentleman, which means I'm getting to the point in my life where is this going to come out before I die? Am I going to get to see a great MCU X-Men movie content before I leave this world? It's like, it's becoming a legit concern. So, but at the same time, I can't really be that mad because I'll always have Star Wars. It's the best universe that produces wonderful stuff almost nearly every time. I don't listen to the internet people because, let's face it, for every property, no matter how good it is, no matter how loyal the fan base is, there's going to be a gathering of people on the internet. They're going to make themselves seem 10 times bigger, and they're going to complain, and it should be ignored. Watch it. If you enjoy it, boom. That's all you need to worry about. You really don't need to worry about what somebody else says, because 9 times out of 10, we're really just getting complaints because the story didn't go to where they thought it was going to go, or the story didn't go to where they wanted the story to go. And, that's not fair. It's not. It's not fair to say something's bad because you wanted to see, more Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, right? So, I mean, that's within our property, Star Wars, MCU, DC. I mean, you've always got detractors. half the internet is just people that live to detract and to review bomb and to convince you that something is good or is not good without you actually consuming that content. So don't let others fool you. Don't let others fool you. I think the last thing on my mind here today, and again, if I've talked about something that interests you, or perhaps you would like to hear me talk about something that interests you, you can tweet at the show on Twitter at Omega Level Nerds. You can tweet me personally at dsquare72, or email the show omegalevelnerds at gmail, and let me know your thoughts, questions, concerns, and suggestions. But before I end this one today and start going to the edit process, I will say that I did see the Transformers trailer, the Beast Wars, or whatever they're calling it. I'm a little bit skeptical because just to me, when I think of Beast Wars, when I think of, the Beast Wars that I used to, watch before school, that was back in prehistoric times, and so this looks more modern day. But outside of that, I mean, it looks great. They went with all the, or not all the, but like specifically Optimus Prime, looks just like his G1, truck. So they've obviously adopted that the Bumblebee movies aesthetics when it comes to the Autobots and Decepticons, which is great because I thought that looked awesome. And so again, we just need a good story here, and all will be well. So I'm not a Transformer movie hater. I like them. I didn't mind Michael Bay's style. Give me giant robots fucking each other up, and I'm there all day, and that's exactly what you got. So sure, the stories could have been better, but I was a little kid when Transformers first came out, G1, sitting down on a Saturday morning with my cereal watching cartoons. And so, not once did it make me think, this sucks. This isn't Transformers. I liked it. It is what it is. There was no advanced storylines, back in the cartoons. Maybe when you got to the movie, the one where they killed Optimus, fought Unicron, sure, maybe there was a little bit of a storyline there, but man, that shit was all to sell toys. That's all it really is. So you really can't be too critical of that stuff. We just want giant, changeable robots fighting each other and Peter Cullen voicing Optimus. That's all I need out of my Transformers content, and I'm happy all day long. So yeah, am I going to go to the theaters to see a Transformer movie? No, probably not. Just not worth the hassle anymore, but I'm looking forward to the Beast Wars Transformers movie. Looks good. All right, well, that's about all the inane rambling that I can do for today. Just really wanted to get back on the horse there and see how she feels. Feels pretty good. Hopefully here at some point I will have some other guests with me, or maybe not, because this is the Omega Level Nerds. But that doesn't mean that the people on the show, the nerds, need to be plural. It can just be one. Because again, if you're listening to this show, you are an Omega Level Nerd. Believe it. All right, well, till next time, everyone. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe and comment if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening on Podbean or Apple Podcast app, please give us a good rating. Again, tweet at the show at Omega Level Nerds, or you can email the show, omegalevelnerds@gmail.com. Or you can tweet at me personally at dsquare72. Have a great one.